Yo guys, welcome back to the Uncle Sharma channel, here for a special preview episode with my guy, Alex Donno. What's up, Alex? Welcome to the channel.
I'm doing well. It's great to join my favorite Zio. I hope you're doing well too.
Yeah, not too bad, man. Not too bad. And here, 2021, we got our first win, 8 wins in a row. I'll get straight to the point. Can we make it 9 in a row?
I think we can. Inter have had the recent success against Samp, winning, I think, the last 6 in a row. And, Samp is a team that they've been losing a lot. They have been losing gracefully. A lot of one-goal losses against good opponents. This is one that Inter are going to have to certainly work for. We may see our old friend Antonio Candreva, so a blast from the past. I hope he stays off the score sheet. But no, I certainly think this is a winnable one for Inter.
Yeah, Candreva. I can just see as written in the stars, a Candreva screamer from 30 yards, and then him doing this to Antonio Conte. Or even Keita Balde. He's another ex-player, which I'm not sure. I don't think he starts for them, but
yeah, I think he may have an injury if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. Maybe if not, maybe we'll see him as a substitute.
Yeah, but we always have to be wary of those ex-players. Inter seems to they always seem to bite us in the ass for some reason. It seems to be a curse, which is weird. Like in the Premier League, you get to have like a clause for when you loan out players that you're not allowed to play your home or the team that owns you. But in Italy, it doesn't seem to exist, which I think should be inserted now.
And speaking of what you're saying about former players, I'll never forget a couple of years ago when Federico Di Marco, we had him on loan at Parma, and he scored a game-winning goal against Inter, and he celebrated. I know some people were upset that he celebrated. I didn't have an issue with it, knowing how big that goal was for him. But yeah, that was a game-winning goal against Inter from a player that we owned at the time. So yeah, that was pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I remember that. I would celebrate as well as a banger. It was like from 30 yards away.
Yeah,
and Handanovic did his usual save.
Mannequin challenge.
Yeah. But yeah, pulling up the team, as you said, Sampdoria, I think they're like the definition of a mid-table team this year. Like they've won 5 matches, lost 8, and they're kind of in the middle ground for goals scored. I think they're about in the middle, and then goals conceded, they're like bang in the middle as well. So they're a bit of a middle ground team, and it's team-wise. On their team, it says here Keita Balde is starting on Who's Scored prediction lineup. Him and Quagliarella up front because Gabbiadini is injured in a 4-4-2, which is a pretty standard Claudio Ranieri 4-4-2. He's never really evolved his tactics over the years. Pretty bog standard. Nothing out of the ordinary. They're a hardworking team. They go back into a low block 4-4-2 when they're defending. They even go back to a 5. I was watching the AC Milan match a few weeks ago. They're a pretty hardworking team, but nothing too stand out about them in terms of, I'm not really worried about any particular. Obviously, Quagliarella has always got a goal in him. He seems to score against Inter quite often as well, but I'm not really too worried. Back line especially, I think they concede a lot of goals, so I can see Inter scoring at least 2 goals. So for me, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win prediction. What do you think?
I'm going to go for a 3-1. I think we can agree probably not going to be a clean sheet kept for Inter. And if I'm going to look at concerns from an Inter side, it's giving up cheap goals. It's committing a cheap penalty. I'm happy that we're not expecting Arturo Vidal to start in this game because he just gave up the cheapest of cheap penalties last time out. So no, I do worry about conceding at least once in this match. But I think the goals are going to be they're not going to be too difficult to come by for Inter. Of course, a big thing of note to people who look at that projected starting 11. Of course, you don't see Romelu Lukaku, who's probably going to be out for a precaution after picking up the muscular issue that he picked up. I think it's not as serious as we expected it might be, so that's good news. But with Alexis and Martinez up front, I think the timing is good here for Lautaro. Coming off the hat trick, really could have been 4 goals. But I think this is a really important match for him because the one thing that Lautaro has failed to do, really going back to last January, is show any kind of consistency. Like, it really shouldn't be that big of a shocker to see him play the sort of match that he played at the weekend against Crotone, because we know that Lautaro is capable of brilliance. I think the question is is he capable of stringing together brilliance in 2-3 consecutive matches? That's really what we haven't seen since, 2019, really, the first half of the 2019-2020 campaign. But I think he's going to get some opportunities here, assuming Alexis, if his fitness is good, he's going to be more of the creator, facilitator, and hopefully Lautaro is the finisher. But I think we may end up seeing at least one more goal from Lautaro in this match to put a nice run together for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Lautaro's consistency. If he just had, I think he admitted it in the post-match interview last match as well. He just said, I need to improve on that. And imagine if he didn't go through these patches of form, he'd be really that 110 million player that we were talking about last year. And I know I heard about it on your podcast a couple of times. You talked with Jerry saying that you kind of regret almost not selling him last year. Are you still on that wave?
Yeah, I'm on, but it's a loaded question a little bit because, it really depends on what the return would have been, because I know
was that offer really even there?
Yeah, 100%, because they kept throwing out, hey, the release is 111 million, and that was the alleged value that Barca was going to offer. But then every time you read about the reported offers, it was Barca offering 2 or 3 players with inflated valuations plus a little bit of cash. So I don't know. I mean, I certainly I would have been angry had they sold him for a low valuation, but if the 111 figure was remotely real, then yeah, I do regret it a little bit, because the opportunity to strike while the iron is hot with a player who's, he's not even your best forward. I mean, Lukaku is by far the most valuable striker in Inter's 11. So you're telling me I could have gotten a 111 million valuation for my second striker who's not consistent? Then yeah, there is a little bit of a regret there.
Yeah, no, for me, I've always been I've been a big fan of Lautaro, and yeah, I don't think that offer really was ever on the table. So I think it was just, one of those, as we've seen from Barcelona, the dealings have been after all those rumors. They haven't spent much money since that summer, since even in January, it looks like they won't do anything. It looks like they're going for cut price deals. And I think that's everywhere now. No one has that type of money. So I'm happy that Lautaro stayed. But if there was, I'm never against selling players for the right price. For me, maybe it's a bit too much of a business way of thinking, but I think there's always a price. There's always the right price. You mentioned Vidal, and we were talking about the starting 11 there. So what do you make of Vidal? Like, I've kind of defended him this season, but now it's like got to the point where I can't even defend him, and it seems like Antonio Conte has finally realized as well, like, this is, and he obviously is going to get dropped for this match. What do you make of the Vidal situation and his signing?
I'm very much aligned with your thinking, and this was a signing that at the time I defended the signing. I really did. I thought it was a little bit unfair that Interisti were directly comparing his signing with Tonali. Tonali, of course, would have been an investment for the future, whereas Conte looked at Vidal as this is a missing piece we need right now to help win a Scudetto. And I viewed it the same way, right? I mean, I'm not saying I didn't want Sandro Tonali. I wish they'd gotten both. I wish they'd, brought in the short-term.
You were a big Tonali fan. I remember you were. When AC Milan swooped in, you were ready to rant.
I was upset. I was ready to riot. But yeah, it's really become really impossible to defend, I should say, Arturo Vidal at this point. Maybe you could say that the second Real Madrid game was his lowest of lows this season, but I thought that his first half performance against Crotone was right up there. I mean, it wasn't just the penalty he gave up. He was poor in 3 or 4 other touches in that first half. And I thought Conte made the right move by subbing him off at halftime. So the way that I look at it with Vidal, for as unhappy as I am, I'm not going to completely dig his grave and saying he can't help the team this season, because I think the big issue he has right now, and it's why he's making some of these sloppy mistakes, his fitness looks piss poor. Like, I think that's the biggest problem he has right now. I'm not going to say, oh, this is a finished player and he's showing he's finished. I think at this moment, with some of what he's been through, injury-wise, I think his fitness is just not where he'd like it to be, and I think that's kind of affecting his performances. So I think if and when he gets back to full fitness, he can still help this team. But as for right now, Inter look a ton better with Stefano Sensi on the pitch. They even look slightly better with Gagliardini on the pitch than they do with Vidal. So that's an issue.
Yeah, no, I had to eat my words on that. Someone was telling me on when the match was on against Crotone that he'd take Gagliardini, and I was like, no, bro, I'll take Vidal all day. Then he made that good tackle, for the second goal. I think it was for Inter's second goal that he won the ball back, and then we score off that, and then he makes that, and that was the moment where I was like, damn. And you're spot on about his fitness, because Conte alluded to that in November. He said ideally he would like Vidal to get 2 weeks of full immersion training with the team and without having to play, but he's having to play every 3 days. Like, our schedule's been so packed this year. But that's also on Conte. He's not willing to rest him whenever he's available. He plays, and clearly he wasn't fit enough against Crotone, and hopefully he takes the next couple of weeks to maybe put some more fuel in his legs to see the real Vidal, because I don't think he's finished either. I think he's been good in the Serie A. In the Champions League, he's been disastrous. There's no way to describe it. But in the Serie A, apart from that Crotone match, I don't remember a bad match from Vidal. So I'm still keeping the faith. He's still an important player, I think, for this team. Speaking of the others that have been criticized in this team, how is Ashley Young still like getting the starting left wing back spot? Because Arturo Vidal's performance overshadowed Ashley Young, who has been, he was really bad against Crotone, and it was overshadowed by Vidal's bad performance. And then he's been bad the whole season for me. And once again, in the predicted lineups, he's looking to be the starting left wing back ahead of Darmian. What do you make of that? Like, I can't believe it.
It's troublesome, and you're right to say that it's been a little bit under the radar, because I think that you really have to pay attention to Ashley Young to realize how poor he's been. There have been he hasn't scored yet this season. He was scoring some goals last year after he arrived, so he was an offensive threat last season. He's played a couple of decent balls. He's created a couple of scoring chances this year, but I think you're seeing him become even worse and even slower defensively. To me, what is he, 35 years old at this point? It's just a drop off like that is inevitable. This is another player that can be a valuable squad player, needs to play more sparingly. And I think it's the left wing back position. It's an issue for Inter. There's no question about it. And I know that with most of the projected starting 11s that we're looking at still have Ashley Young. I have seen a few projected starting 11s, and it's all guesswork at this point, that have Darmian starting on the left and making his first start at left wing back. I hope that's the way that it plays out, because if nothing else, now that the victories become more and more important, because even though Inter keep winning, so do Milan. Milan also keep winning. They're not dropping any points. So no matter how many Inter win, they're still a point off of first place. Obviously Milan have a tough one midweek against Juventus. Inter have on paper a less tough one against Samp. But I think it's really time to try new things at left wing back. And if you can't get reinforcements in January, why not give Darmian a chance to play there? Because instead of just only having him as the Hakimi backup, where Hakimi now is playing very well, he's virtually unbenchable at this point. Why not try Darmian at left wing back?
Yeah, no, spot on. I would rather see Darmian left wing back as well. Ashley Young last year came in, did really well. I think did better than most people's expectations, beat my expectations. But this season has not been good enough. And I hope we go for a left wing back this January transfer. But it looks like it's not really a priority at the moment. And that moves me on to the January transfer window in general. We'll have a quick Q&A with you, Alex. There's been some interesting names flying around. Not left wing back related, but striker related, and I'll just go for it. Graziano Pelle and EDER in 2021.
I think Conte must think it's 2015 or 2016 still. And when it's funny, and of course, you had that Sky Punjab tweet from a year ago saying that, presumably, I thought, at least at the time, I thought it was a joke. Maybe you knew something back then when you tweeted about, Inter in January of last year going after EDER on a 6-month dry loan, and then a year later, it's actually been uttered out of Fabrizio Di Marzio's mouth. So, of course, my initial reaction when I see something like that, it's just chaos, heart attack, hysteria. What are we doing going after a washed up player like EDER? And certainly I'm not going to completely freak out unless it were to actually happen. And even if it did happen, Sharma, it's given Inter's position right now, we know the financial restraints and not getting round of 16, not having European football, it affects the club financially, but then also not having any European football for the rest of the season, it does change the need for squad rotation. So just to try and talk a few Interisti off the ledge here, because I know you hear names like Pele and EDER and you completely flip out, I'll turn it around and ask any Interisti, how much do you honestly expect the fourth striker to play on this team with no European football, right? I mean, assuming there aren't, catastrophic injuries to the other three, you're going to see a fourth striker play sparingly. Now, if you're talking about washed up senior citizens or older players, my preference would be a guy like Gervinho, who I still think has more to give than EDER or Pele at this point. I mean, I think that would be a slightly preferred option for me. But if EDER did really return to Inter, I hope and pray that he would actually be used sparingly, and this is more of an insurance policy, right? That we want to loan out Pinamonti to get him more playing time because he's young, he deserves to play more, he needs to play more. So if we're going to have a fourth striker spot of someone that rarely ever plays throughout the rest of the year, maybe it would be like a 90th minute substitute a la Christian Eriksen when the game is already decided. If that's the situation, then EDER can fill that role and you're not affecting the growth of a younger player. So it's not as big of a catastrophe as people describe it, but God forbid you reach a point where that fourth striker actually has to start matches, then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, no, you've wrapped it up perfectly. My thoughts is like when you see it, when it pops up on your timeline, you're like, really? EDER, Pele? But then you think about it, it's like, I mean, we've got no Europe. If Pele would be a good option. Like if Lukaku, God forbid, anything happens to him, we still need someone that comes. Clearly, Pinamonti's not rated by Conte, as you said, so he needs to go out. So we needed a similar profile to Lukaku, whether it is, these Pavolettis that we've been linked with, or is Fernando Llorente even. I don't know. I don't understand why Mandzukic is not on anyone's radar. Yeah. But yeah, that type of profile for me is a must, just in case, and as you said, we're not expecting those guys to play much anyway. So it has to be someone like that. Because, if you bring someone like Giroud, he's going to have expectations of playing. And especially without, Europe, we can't convince someone like Giroud, I don't think. And then in terms of EDER, I guess, he's someone that knows the Conte system. He was his boy. Pele and EDER were both his boys in the 2016 Italy Euro team. So I guess, if someone that comes in, tries to make an impact instantly, someone that knows the style of play already. So it makes kind of sense at a low cost as well, I'm guessing. But it just doesn't like, tingle the loins. It doesn't, doesn't fire you up. But
it does the opposite of that, really.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that you like, any names that you would like to see coming in? Obviously a lot of people have been talking about DePaul. Yeah. Or anyone else? Is there anyone else that you would like?
I mean, I do like the Papu Gomez idea. It's obviously you would hope that there can be some kind of a player exchange worked out to lessen the cost, because at his age, in his 30s, if Atalanta is steadfast and hard lined on, it's got to be a 10 million euro fee. Unfortunately, for as good as he is, that's not a good investment if you're talking about laying down a fee like that. So you would hope that within Serie A, you can work out some sort of a player exchange to lessen that cost a little bit. So I would be all for that idea, because if you're talking about, not only is this, with Conte experimenting more with a 3-4-1-2, I think he could be more effective in that than Christian Eriksen was tactically. And I think Gomez is also versatile enough to play other roles in a Conte formation. And what he adds as far as quality and creativity, I think he could be really a quality spark. So I'm all for that. I mean, you mentioned Rodrigo de Paul. I think that's something that I wouldn't want to get my hopes up too much for that, because I just don't. Udinese doesn't really have a habit of making sales like that mid-season. That would be more of a summer ambition, I think, and the cost would be so high just based on recent spending patterns from Suning. I have a hard time thinking they're going to make an investment like that at this moment, unless serious sales happen first. There would have to be a couple of significant outgoings to make an incoming like that. And so I think that those are really the areas that I look at. Again, I'm going to stand up for my guy Gervinho, because if I'm going to add an aging striker, I'd much rather go Gervinho than EDER or Pele. And at left wing back, obviously for a while now, I've had my eye on a guy like Palmieri, but it certainly doesn't seem like he's going to come in January. So I think at left wing back, the plan might be to stick with the status quo. I don't think it's going to be a really active January. I think it's going to be a relatively quiet one. What do you think?
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be much happening. It all depends. It all hinges on Christian Eriksen, because his wages alone will free up so much space. And obviously, if we manage to even sell him, an actual permanent deal, then that's even better. But I just don't see it happening. It seems like no one's actually interested in Eriksen as well, which is the sad situation, which obviously we saw happening, which is why we wanted Conte to at least play him so he wouldn't be so devalued. Yeah. And now it just feels like he has his value is rock bottom. So yeah, apart from a vice Lukaku or that kind of pacey striker, I don't see anything else coming in, and hopefully a left wing back. But yeah, not expecting much from anyone actually, to be honest. Not even our competitors. Quiet January. I think the clickbait is gonna have to be strong this January. But yeah, Alex, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you. The smoothest voice in sports broadcasting, I have to say.
Well, I appreciate that, and keep up the great work with the channel. I love it.
Yeah, do you want to plug the Calcio Con pod before you go?
Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, the Calcio Connection. You can follow us on Twitter at Calcio Con Pod. That's where we post all the new episodes, the links. You can find Calcio Connection, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Pod, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us everywhere. We do have a YouTube channel as well. We're nowhere near as prolific as Uncle Sharma, because it's the YouTube channel does reposts of our audio podcast. We do have the video, so if you want to see our ridiculous jerseys and faces and backgrounds, you can watch it on there as well. So the YouTube channel is Calcio Connection. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man, and thanks everyone for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Make sure to leave in the comments below your thoughts on Inter, Sampdoria, your predictions, your thoughts on GRAZIANO, Pele, EDER, Gervinho, whatever you want in January. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and check out the Calcio Connection pod. Ciao ragazzi, and Forza Inter.